Hello everybody, how's it going? AJ back again with another monster video. This one thanks to many requests and getting bumped up on the list. Many thanks for that. Today I bring you the Ogre Mage, or the Ogre Magi, or the Oni, as they are all the same creature. For Dungeons & Dragons, the Ogre Mage, or Ogre Magi, has been part of the game from the very start, appearing in the Greyhawk supplement in 1979, and they stem directly from Chinese and Japanese folklore. They were also called the Japanese ogres back then, where they get the name Oni. And I think of them as Oni, so I'll refer to them as such during the video. And as per usual, we're going to delve deep into the lore of these dangerous deceivers and man-eaters, including some details on how people in the D&D world might protect themselves against them. Stay tuned. Also, bear in mind there are some more adult themes in this video about the Oni, because they're a sick and twisted species, so just fair warning. Oni are large humanoids. On average, they are larger and more powerful than ogres, standing 10 feet tall and having a more muscular and lean frame, weighing around 800 to 900 pounds. And keep in mind, one of the largest human bodybuilders and professional wrestlers is 7 foot 3 inches tall and weighs 435 pounds. So an Oni is much larger than even that rather impressive physique. They also have long, wickedly sharp and pitch black claws, wide mouth full of black fangs. Their skin's usually depicted as blue, but can be red or green, and there's a good reason why they have different skin colours. I'll cover that later. They have long, wild hair, which is black or grey, and 2 horns from a heavy brow, and dark eyes with starkly contrasting white or yellow iris. So those horns and things as part of a Japanese mythological theme. In Japanese folklore, Oni carry iron clubs called kanabo, and the phrase Oni with an iron club basically means to be very hard to defeat, or unreasonably strong, or having one's natural equality enhanced or supplemented by the use of some tool. In addition to this, they can mean that phrase to be one who goes overboard, or to be unnecessarily strong or powerful. They were also traditionally associated with the direction north, and the associated animals tiger and ox on the Asian calendar zodiac. So they have this the ox and the Oni typically wear like tiger skin loincloths, and they have those ox horns. So yeah, they also said to be very unlucky, with lots of traditions and festivals to ward them off, even so far as to design buildings with indents on the north-facing walls to deflect badness back to the northern direction, or the demon gate. The Japanese version of the gargoyle decorations on buildings is the leering face of an Oni, plus they feature in tales and rhymes to scare children into obeying their parents, as pretty much every culture in the world has done since the very first cave parents got fed up with their unruly cave children and resorted to mind games. In Dungeons & Dragons, the Oni is depicted and represented in entries as being equipped with a glaive. This may be more of a Chinese thing, or it's just maybe added to them for artistic reasons as they appeared in Oriental adventures. But I would say that if you would rather equip them with the traditional iron club, go right ahead. Just switch the damage type to bludgeoning. No big deal there. Being supernatural creatures, only have a couple of folklore vulnerabilities that I would include in D&D environments where the locals are aware of Oni and what they do, just for an extra bit of flavor text. I like to build up foreshadowing of monsters in a particular area. It's one way of cluing the adventurers in. The players sit at a table and you describe what the townsfolk are doing, and it sparks their curiosity and leads them into the forestory that builds up to the encounter with the Oni. Townsfolk will decorate buildings with leering blue or red masks and put them on awnings or over doorways. This serves as a warning to Oni that they are expected, that people are ready for them, kind of like setting a burglar alarm, or seeing the burglar alarm, as much as a deterrent as a big lock on a door or bars on the windows. So it doesn't really do anything to the Oni, but just makes them more wary, and they may avoid a dwelling which has got a leering face because, you know, the locals are aware of what the Oni get up to. So traditionally, Oni are known to be vulnerable to holly and cannot stand soybeans. So townsfolk yell out for Oni to go away and throw beans on the ground, and villagers may grow hedges of holly with spiky foliage. They may brew holly tea or decorate buildings with dried berries and laurels of holly. In your game, it might be fun to have Oni believe that the holly is deadly to them, and they shriek and run away from a villager brandishing a switch broom of holly or pelting them with red holly berries, even coming out in a painful rash that is purely psychosomatic. Or perhaps they really are vulnerable to holly, and simply steeping holly in some water turns it into something as effective as holy water versus undead. Or perhaps the touch of a soybean to the bare foot of an Oni is as nasty as standing on a caltrop. Then again, perhaps this is just nonsense and the Oni find these superstitions hilarious, but the townsfolk believe in it. The origin of the Oni concept has it that they are an invisible menace that causes disaster and misfortune, and it's not until later that they were given humanoid characteristics, anthropomorphized as Asian cultures encountered other things like Buddhist traditions and jinn and things like that, and their relationship to the legends of the Rakshasas. So the deceptive and sneaky powers of the Oni really is the whole focus of the monster, and that's how they're played in the game. They are shapeshifters, they can turn invisible, and they can create supernatural darkness. They are intelligent, devious, thoroughly evil killers. Unlike a natural predator, such as a tiger, the Oni kills for pleasure, and there is a great appetite in them for eating intelligent humanoids, particularly if it causes fear, distress, and suffering. So they will target communities with children. They'll actually infiltrate and walk around in broad daylight, shapeshifted into the guise of a traveller or a merchant or snake oil salesman, scope out their victims, and return under cover of night to play their deadly, terrible games. Oni really are despicably evil. Though they are not chaotic evil, they are lawful evil, so they are capable of putting aside their horrendous inclinations in order to achieve some goal or abide by an agreement they have made. This is it's a typical feature of monsters in folklore that can be bargained with, outsmarted, or tricked into service. And in D&D, the Oni are similar to ogres in that they often work with other evil creatures, usually for some added form of hedonistic comfort for their lives, or to promote an environment where they are more freely able to be sadistically nasty. So, with a reduced risk themselves. After all, if they work to support an evil overlord that lays waste to a civilized city, the resulting flood of fleeing refugees provide rich fodder for the prowling Oni. It makes sense. So that's actually part of their entire tactics for survival. They eat intelligent humanoids. It's in their best interest to destabilize a protected city or town or hamlet so that people are separated from the herd and vulnerable. In Japanese folklore, Oni were associated with games of tag and hide and go seek, so by nature Oni love to play a far more terrifying game of hide and seek with their victims, using concealment, misdirection, trickery and illusion to lure and chase, only revealing themselves when discovered or when they decide the time has come to terrify, maim or kill their prey. Oni will kidnap one or two children, painfully injure them and leave them maimed in a nearby cave, crying out in pain and agony and fear. They'll set simple traps around it, waiting for the inevitable group of townsfolk to come who go out as a group to rescue the children and kill the monster. And then they're waylaid by these traps, and only to find that the crafty Oni has doubled back and wreaked bloody havoc back in the settlement, murdering and devouring people willy-nilly, because all the protectors are outside of the city. That's the smarts of this creature. They really are quite nasty. Oni, though inherently magically gifted, do love to acquire more magical power and will bargain for it, be drawn in by their lust for it, often to their detriment, and it's a weakness that can be exploited in this creature. So if a player character group knows that Oni have a lust for magical knowledge and trinkets and power, they can use it against them. Now, so that's the traditional Oni for you. For some of the variants and lore specific to Dungeons & Dragons, and for this we need to delve deeply into the Ecology of the Ogre Mage from Dragon Magazine number 349 from back in 2006, and some of the Ogre Magi variants over the history of the game. In an article, it talks about the Ogre Magi's own written legend of their mythological origin, and in typically grisly fashion, it is written on the flayed and petrified skin of a primordial giant ancestor who is known as Muaj the Immortal. Come with me, come closer. Don't look at it directly, just listen as I tell the tale of the three sons of Vaprak the Destroyer, demon god of ogres and trolls. Vaprak is a lesser deity. He combines the very worst aspects of ogre and troll. He is the enemy of the giant pantheon. His symbol is a clawed hand. Legend tells that Othea, mother of giants, had an affair with Vaprak, God knows why, and gave birth to the ogre race. Vaprak dwells in the abyssal layer known as Shatterstone. In the beginning, when humanoids were little more than beasts themselves, all existence was violence and pain. Those who knew of things greater than the here and now gave homage to Vaprak. They made sacrifices and called on his favour to produce fearsome offspring, towering twice the height of man, thick-skinned, black-clawed. In time, the weak turned to the constant call of war. They turned from the call of war and from Vaprak and sought their astral gods. And they were instilled by the astral gods with a sense of goodness, mercy, love. To the disgust of Vaprak, disgusted beyond measure, they thrived. And Vaprak sent visions to his remaining tribes, those who were descended from the product of his blessings, these towering beings now known as trolls and ogres. He said that 3 of his greatest demon spawn that he'd summoned up from his demonic forces would be sent to become mortal incarnations on the prime material plane. And they were to be born into each of the 3 tribes, and their names were Anori, Hakuni, and Waj. He promised these individuals that if they rose up his tribes and destroyed the weakling races, he would elevate them to the status of gods, and they would rule at his side in a new pantheon. They were born on an ill-omened night of a blood-red moon. The 3 sons grew with supernatural speed and were of enormous size and power. Quickly becoming leaders of the 3 tribes, they did indeed swarm the civilized races, and there was untold brutality and murder, but the inventiveness, the magic, and the devotion of the weak races eventually vanquished the horde, and they've remained driven back and scattered to the remote wilderness places ever since. In his unending rage at this, Vaprak stripped his sons of their immortality and banished them from the abyss forever, and from their mortal line they produced the race of Ogre Mages, infused with supernatural power, demonic might, but superior physical and mental attributes than their more common ogre stock. Thus it's written. Though what truth there is to this, it's hard to say. There is evidence that some form of troll and ogre civilization once thrived in the lands of the Silver Marches in Faerun, and probably further north, as Oni tend to have a high body temperature and prefer colder climates. Oni had a kind of a faith, well they do have a kind of faith, in that they believe they were forsaken by Vaprak, and they are possessed of souls that are forever cursed to be reborn into the world until such time as the weakling races are finally dead, and then Vaprak will fulfill his promise and all Oni will be elevated to join him in immortality. This is kind of like the Rakshasa story, yes, as well. It's got echoes of it, isn't it? Now, most people are more familiar with the descendants of Waj, but there are 2 other sons of Vaprak. Cereborg are psychic Oni, blue-skinned, descended from Agmori, that live in the frozen northern wastes in castles carved from ice. They have the power to mentally cloud minds, teleport short distances, detect thoughts, stun and command lesser minds. The Ogre are descended from Hakuni. They are much darker in appearance, they're darker skinned, and specialise in stealth and assassination, but with a similar suite of abilities as the descendants of Waj. Only society, such as it is violent and twisted. Males dominate with violence. Young males are driven to defeat their fathers and take everything they had, including their mates and offspring. So inbreeding is extremely common unless the young male kills their father, in which case fails to kill their father, in which case they're banished basically, and they have to leave their clan, their tribe, if they've not already been killed by their father during the challenging stage. Outside of their clans, only rarely interact with their own kind. So, as you can imagine, the survival of the species relies on the behaviour of the females, who have such a bad time of it in their clan that even their names are demeaning, if they even have names. They are so very wary of the patriarch's aggression to the other males, including their own offspring, they'll resort to raising their sons in hidden locations or raising them disguised as girls, and teach them to hate other males to ensure their own survival. It's little wonder they turn out to be so evil, really. Oni make great bad guys, and although they can be a playable character race if you want to adapt them from the 3rd and 4th edition rules, I would strongly advise not to try and integrate them into an adventuring party of humans, elves, dwarves, halflings, and the like, as Oni naturally hate, torment, murder, and eat those other races. So coming up with a convoluted reason why they wouldn't is very contrived. Oni working as a team with other evil brutes in an evil campaign works just fine, though. I think that's really the intention of turning those into player characters. No issues there. But please keep in mind, and only known to associate with weakling humanoids, those who worship the astral gods, would be actively hunted down and brutally killed by any other Oni that learns about it, as it is a completely blasphemous act forbidden by Vaprak and would jeopardize all of their immortal souls. So, yeah, bear that in mind. How you would integrate a Oni clan into your campaign would be something like a ruined castle or some grotto where they have found refuge for a long time undisturbed, and they have it's a kind of a sick and twisted society where they're constantly fighting amongst themselves and plotting and yeah, they're very violent and aggressive and very capricious and greedy. And they would fight amongst themselves for the smallest of reasons and hold grudges like you wouldn't believe. So it would be very, very dysfunctional indeed. In fact, you may make some inroads into acquiring a magical item or something that they have stolen, or reacquiring it, or having heard of its existence and it's in the collection of this Oni patriarch and his dysfunctional clan. And female Oni may in fact help you to get this magical item if you take their son away or some such. Take them to it, or give them refuge, give them asylum in some safe location away from the patriarch, or kill the patriarch so that the young sons have a chance to grow to adult size. So that's certainly an inroad for how you could use the clan of Oni in your game. And of course they do associate with other evil overlords and things like that, so you can insert them into all sorts of campaign arcs where the big bad guy has got an Oni lieutenant or a general who's smart enough to command troops and knows which side their bread is buttered on. So yeah, but of course Oni are lawful evil. They follow their agreements and things like that, but they're not above being bribed by magical items. That's their big weakness, as I said. So yeah, thanks for the suggestion, everybody. It's a great monster to cover. I really enjoyed the research of that, going into ancient Japanese and Chinese folklore. I'll be back again this weekend with some more videos. I can't promise I'll be doing locations. I may actually just do a big bunch of monster videos. I've got a big backlog of them to get through. So stay tuned. I may surprise you. Thanks for your suggestions. Keep them rolling, everybody. Keep the suggestions constantly flowing in. My list is ever growing, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have on any monsters. You can post them on any video that you watch, and I'll be there. Thanks a lot, everybody. Catch you again soon.